Welcome to the Second Mess Podcast, one-stop shopping for Norwich nostalgia, networking, and news from the Hill. Stand by for your host, Randall H. Miller.
Welcome. Another great show for you today. Rook Week is in full swing. Actually, by the time you hear this, it's kind of coming to a close. We recorded this just last night, Thursday, and it's going out today, Friday, August 23rd. Just a quick note of thanks. I don't want to be a downer here, but I had a kind of a rough couple of weeks here. I lost my mother last week, and wasn't easy. She had been on, declining health for the past year or so, and then, some people go slowly and others kind of go off a cliff, and unfortunately this was very rapid. So I went down to Tampa, and I am very grateful I got to spend about 5 days with her at her bedside. She was not conscious for it, but she was already on a ventilator and all that, but I'm positive she knows I was there. And by the time we turned her over to hospice, and let me tell you, those people are extraordinary. They have empathy I can't even empathize with. They do just a fantastic job of making everything peaceful, but she passed a few hours after being in their care. On the light side of that, if there is one, I want to thank a whole bunch of you, and I heard from a ton of Norwich people, which just reinforces how strong these lifelong relationships are. The school reached out through a couple of different people too, offering their thoughts and prayers, all that good stuff. And I'll tell you, that stuff goes a long way. I think I've said it for a long time, but once you join this family, you're just never alone. So thank you for that. Tough to segue from that, but I'm going to try to do it anyway. Good show today. 2 returning guests. If you don't know who they are Lieutenant Colonel retired Chris Cadigan, class of 95. Chris arrived as a Rook. He was already a Desert Storm veteran. Then he went on to a multi-decade career in the United States Army, Green Beret, Special Forces guy. And now, proud father of a Norwich Rook. So we're about to hear his perspective. And Brian Dunne, JD, lawyer, class of 13, and current president of the Norwich University Alumni Association. So this is a good discussion on how things are done these days. There's a little bit of advice in there for parents, and I hope you guys enjoy it. How was it taking William up and dropping him off for Rook Week and all that?
Oof. We're going to go right into it, huh?
Right into it. Let's do it.
Well, I was just, one of my classmates, who you guys know, Will Brayman, dropped his son off. His son Wes reported into military school this week also, and we just yesterday had a phone call about that, and how surprising the emotions are, the things that surface in terms of dropping off your kid and handing your kid over when you know what they're about to experience, and it's a confluence of happiness and joy and pride in who they are now and who they're going to become through this process of growth and meeting the best friends of their lives, meeting the people that they're going to be connected to for like the next 50 years. That all happened simultaneously. Brian probably saw it on my face. I was a little speechless at times over the course.
Where's Will's kid going to school?
He's at Fort Union. Yeah.
Where's that?
It's in Virginia.
Virginia or Pennsylvania, one of those.
Yeah.
Nice. High school?
High school. Yep. So he did, and I don't want to tell his story, but Wes is a fine young man. He's a real pistol. And he's a live wire, as they say. And he asked his parents to go. He's like, hey, I want to do this. I think it would be good for me academically. And they have a different approach to their academics, not unlike, an Alden Partridge sort of difference. in that they focus on one area of math class. We're gonna have math class, and that's what we're doing for a period of time. And I think it's like 6 or 8 weeks that they just focus on that topic, and then they move on to the next thing. They move on to English, and so he did 1 or 2 summer events, and then had a bit of a break, and then Will just took him back. And so school starts in earnest, including all of the military first year stuff this week. And so yeah, we had a classmate lash up and had a conversation about the process of dropping your child off, and so in this case, really wanting William to have his own experience, not and really trying to be very deliberate about giving him the space to be enjoying rookdom on his own 2 feet. I actually talked to one of our board of trustee members, Isabel Desjardins.
Oh, nice.
About that process, as she's a mom of a Norwich alumni, and her process of what she experienced. That was very helpful. And now I'm also lashed up on this Facebook page with other parents, and yeah. So,
what's the procedure these days for parents? Now, you went up a couple days early, right?
We did. We flew in, and I'm glad we did what we did. We ended up flying in a little early, and it was a hellacious travel environment. So we got in later than we had planned, and so by getting there a couple days early, it allowed us to have some rest and kind of recharge time. And then we went to campus. William's girlfriend came with us. It was her first time on campus, and so he got to give her a tour, show her around. She got to experience it. She's been very interested in the whole environment, and she's like, it's a lot bigger than I thought, So she has seen all the online, and she's a student at another school, so it was interesting to get her perspective. She thought that the campus was beautiful, and that it was bigger than what she thought. We did a lot of walking, obviously, as one would on campus, and she got to see the upperclassmen who were sort of preparing for freshman reception and integration. And even though she had grown up here at Fort Bragg all these years and sort of been around military culture, I think it was her first time really seeing some of it up close and personal like that. And so report in day was Sunday morning from 9 to 12. And it started out with a conga line of cars with your Rook and all of their packing list. And then there were a series of check-in procedures. So for those who had already gone through the financial aid and bursar's office and medical check-in, if you've done all of that, the school has a program called Start Ready. And if you needed to go see any of those offices, then you could go interact with the various representatives from each of those offices to update any paperwork or sign any documents that needed to be signed. And then right up onto the upper parade ground with the vehicle and unloading, and the cadre from each of the companies were there to assist in the unloading of the cars, which was very efficient. And luckily we had a couple extra people with us, so we were able to unload the car and then get the vehicle out of the way for the next people in line, and that went very smoothly. We got everything moved into the broom, and William is in Foxtrot Company in Alumni Hall, and with a couple other roommates.
What deck?
I prefer not to say. Maybe I feel like I've already maybe said a little bit too much, but he's in Alumni Hall, And I think he's in a great spot. And I told him, I'm like, hey, look, you got, there's laundry and you got a head and here's front door, back door. I mean, you're in a good spot, right?
Okay, bottom deck. Right?
Yeah. And
No matter what deck he's on, it's haunted.
Right.
it is, yeah. So probably no cell phone reception on that deck for sure, with those like 18 feet thick walls. But the company areas have all changed quite a bit. I mean, they have a really nice Alumni Hall has like a really nice gym, on the second or third deck there. And I got to meet the company mentor, Sergeant Major Dunne, and meet the chain of command very briefly, like, hello, how are you? And then they go through equipment draw. So they, on reception, they get their Rook hat and tie and name tags. So they immediately start to get into Rook Week uniform. And rookie stormtroopers, we used to call it. I don't know what they're calling it nowadays. And then down to the field house, where phase one would be the reception and fielding of the iPad, and then some basic uniform items. So PT gear, some bedding, with the blankets, and then right back up to the room to put all that stuff away. And at this point, I think, we had a big pile of stuff because William wasn't quite sure about, which bed and which desk and that sort of thing. So, and then we went to lunch. So they had, there were meal tickets for family members, and you could take your Rook and go to the chow hall and get some chow. That was fun for a variety of reasons, including throughout the day, I got to interact with, a lot of the seniors that I've had a chance to get to know over the last couple of years. Some of whom, like some of my classmates whose children are there who are now seniors, and some of last year's seniors handed me off to some of this year's seniors for, continuity on, alumni support activities. And so it was just good to be back on campus. And I think the gravity of the fact that here he is getting ready to embark on this journey, like, really started to hit. And so by the time we again went back down to the field house, and I think this is probably, Brian, where I ran into you, I guess, it was in the field house for the reception event. I mean, at this point, he'd already been engaged by the cadre a few times, like, this is where you take your hat off, like, don't wear your hat indoors and that kind of thing. And
don't eyeball me, boy.
Yeah, a little bit of that. And I mean, nothing too crazy. In fact, I talked to a couple of the seniors who really were taking it quite, they were very professional. They said, if I'm yelling, I'm probably not doing the right thing, right? So I need to be firm, and sometimes maybe the pitch needs to be elevated a little bit, but we're not yelling at them. And that happened really without any prompting, So to hear them articulate that and sort of have an understanding that sometimes we have to elevate the volume, but it's not really, we're not yelling at anyone. And so there were a lot of anxious parents, which I was one. So I had the full parental experience, including probably not sleeping very well the night before. And,
What about him?
I asked him, he said he slept, but I don't know how well he slept. And you can ask him. And he'll be really forthcoming. I think he's met you guys, he's met all of my classmates. He's been on campus now a bunch over the last 3 years. And, I gave him a couple of pieces of advice, including, this is your home, you belong here. And I think that was important for him to understand that, he's going to go through this process, but, this is his place. And I want him to really soak that in, because as we all know, you spend 4 years trying to get out of there and then the rest of your life trying to get back. So I really wanted him to understand and enjoy what he was about to do.
Now the roommate situation, we showed up and there was somebody in the room, or or vice versa. That was about it. Do they know ahead of time?
He knew that he knew he was in a triple, so he knew he had 2 other roommates, but he didn't know who they were. And we met one of them, a nice young man from Massachusetts, and his parents. We didn't meet the other one, and so I didn't have a chance to meet whoever the third person was. And their gear was already on beds, but again, I told him, hey, just roll with it. If they're there first and they stake out a claim, it's fine.
Kind of the way it goes, right?
It's kind of the way it goes. And so again, we had a big pile, he had a big pile of stuff in the middle of the room, sort of waiting to talk to those other guys, I think. So my guess is that the cadre helped him out with that after the cannon went off, figure it out. So we get back down to the field house with the parents and the other rooks who are reporting in, and the welcome ceremony involving the president, Lieutenant General Broadmeadow, the commandant, and the new regimental commander was, I thought, excellent. I thought it was pitch perfect. I thought the remarks were exactly what parents and recruits needed to hear. Brian, I don't know what your impression of that was, but I thought they did a great job addressing the crowd.
I thought it was great. That was actually, I've gone to Rook Arrival Day the last couple of years, and that was the first time I've stuck around for the ceremony. Normally I was up on the UP once they came up. I thought it was great. And it helped. I don't know, Chris, at what point you got there, but the band was like warming up and doing like a medley.
Yeah.
So couldn't get my phone out quick enough, but one of the songs they played was Hogan's Heroes, and they had it. It's dialed in. I don't know if they've been playing anything else for the last 2.5 months, but they've definitely been playing that.
The whole scene turns to black and white as soon as they start playing, right?
Well, and what was really amusing was, so we got Brian's, like you hit the cue. We got there not at the last minute, but we didn't have a lot of time before the ceremony began. So the only open seats were kind of over near the band. And so we had to go, and Gunny, Britt, I had to put Britt's mutt muffs on him because the band was cranking. And Hogan's Heroes came right up, and I turned to the people that I was with, and I said, so this is the song that I decided to have played at my funeral when I filled out my Smith file for Afghanistan. This was on the list of songs to be played, and they were like, "Really?" And then I was like, "Yeah, yeah, of
Take
course."
the stressful situation and put them all at ease. This song,
yeah, this joyful march down. So yeah, the second mess theme played, and it was it has a way of just putting a smile on your face, right, when you hear it. So the band did a great job. And the remarks, again, by the speakers were all fantastic. The regimental commander was flawless, both in her delivery and in her content. I thought she did a great job.
Yeah, she squared away.
I got to meet her parents the day before when they were doing rehearsals. So they had flown in for the event, and so I got to meet them, which was great. So I tell you, the mood was, the air was sort of alive with all the emotions. Parents are anxious, and a lot of parenting styles in that room. And when we got the 7-minute mark of you have 7 minutes to say goodbye, which I think is a vast improvement over you now have 2 minutes to say goodbye, right? Like 7 minutes was enough time for them to get themselves situated, get handed over to the cadre and march out. I think it became very real for the parents at that point. And this class, and I guess we'll get the final numbers on Monday from the president at the town hall, has only a handful of legacy families. So, you know, I heard a couple of numbers, but it's a small number of legacies. And I was tempted when the cadets marched off to sound off with "We're free," but I didn't know if, you know, just a handful of us would laugh at that. You know, that's a special Norwich sense of humor for a parent, I think. So,
Have you heard from him yet?
no. So
They don't get a call on the second or third night or anything?
no. Sunday, I think this coming Sunday night will be their first 30-minute block that they'll get to call whoever they choose. By the way, I'm expecting I probably won't be his first phone call, but
He's gonna call that girlfriend right away, right?
probably. Yeah, I'll have to get an update from her. So yeah, I think at this point, you know, I've written him a couple of emails that he'll be able to respond to, maybe starting next week. They're busy, and I will say, you know, when we were there, we didn't, you know, social media wasn't really a thing. This group, the life of the regiment now is vastly different in the communication age. And so, you know, 1st and 2nd Battalion and the companies have feeds, and they're posting. And, you know, Foxtrot has a great feed. Their public affairs team is cranking out content, and it's great.
I started following Foxtrot on Instagram. I'll put the link down in the show notes. They do a good job.
Yep. And you know, I've been following Bravo Company as an alumni now for a couple of years, and I always thought they did a great job. And it's not just all about the freshmen. It's not all about the Rook experience. There's plenty of content on there about the upperclassmen and what they're doing and what they did over the summer, which is fantastic, because I think it really shows, especially parents who aren't as familiar with the school, what great opportunities there are for travel and life experience inside and outside of a military context. And so, you know, Fox Company is really crushing it on content, and the school is putting out some great, you know, short clips, everything from PT and you know, morning activities to classes, and you know, they've had, I think they had an IT class, and they've had some leadership classes. So there's a lot of, I think I probably am not alone in terms of parents who are, you know, checking their Instagram feeds a little bit more frequently than they would have, just to see kind of like what's going on. And as of this morning, we have a sighting. We have a sighting of a new haircut and some PT going on, and so it's been a lot of fun.
Brian, did the NUAA have an official role at this, or you're there for presence?
Yeah, so I was there for presence. It was sort of twofold. One, I was in the area, and two, they added an event to Rook Arrival Day. They have a family, and Chris, I'd be curious to know if you attended this. They have a family reception immediately afterwards, which was interesting. They didn't do that my year, 2009. Part of the struggle was, so it was in Shapiro. Were you guys were in Kreitzberg, or no? Kreitzberg wasn't built. Where did you guys do your Rook Arrival?
Plumley Armory.
Plumley
okay.
Armory, yeah.
So in Kreitzberg, what they used to do was they would have seating for all the cadets. You actually didn't sit with your family for the ceremony. And then when you got, we did get 7 minutes. We were able to rise, run back, find the family, say goodbye. And then we had to immediately return to our seats. Corporals were standing by, and they had
To assist.
lines. Yeah. So they had lines on the ground that they lifted and corralled the families back.
Oh, jeez.
And then we proceeded out. The families were held in place until we were up past Wilson. And then everyone was like directed rather directly, just get in your car and leave. Like, goodbye. Hope you enjoyed Vermont. So in Shapiro, the Rook sat with families. The 7-minute mark was started by actually the commandant this time, not the cadet colonel, and people could mill about. And then the direction was families move to the sides and back. The Rooks are going to process out. It didn't work, and families like lined the roadway going up to like the gulag almost, trying to get their kids. And there were a ton of corporals and S section staff like herding people back. They're like, no, 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 go back inside, go back inside,
Back up, back up.
back up. Doyle Hall in between Kreitzberg and Andrews Hall, which is where the food court is for any of the events, was reserved for families to go. And I think they were given postcards or note cards rather that they could write out to their students and drop them in the mailbox as they leave.
That's nice.
So I attended that event with General McCullough, General Broadmeadow, Dave Casey, and just sort of milled about, offered support. The families that I saw were in a bit of a state, but they'll be fine.
Yeah, so that's great about the postcard. So I didn't attend the family reception because I had to be on a plane. I ended up, we didn't have a lot of information about the afternoon events after the 12 o'clock check-in. At least I hadn't seen anything, and I did look a little bit for that. And so when I had talked to General Broadmeadow and the commandant the day before, and I knew that there was going to be an event, but I didn't know what the time was. And so immediately after the first cannon went off and they started marching up the hill, I was making a beeline for the car. I needed to get up to Burlington Airport. I had about 55 minutes, and so I had to wait. And so I got the corporal corralling, and I said, "Hey, that's my car, and I need to walk." I literally pointed to my car and I said, "That's my car. I have to get to my car, and I got to drive out of here." And they said, "Can you wait till the band gets to the I-beam?" Of course, I don't think he called it I-beam. We used to call it the I-beam gate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, "Yeah, I certainly can wait, and then I'll have to go. I gotta go." So I didn't get to go to the reception, but I did know that there was going to be one, and I knew that General Broadmeadow had planned on going to that. He and I both had warfighters to be at this week, so we're both supporting a big event that's going on in a couple different locations. And so we had a chat about that, and so I was a little disappointed to not be able to attend that event for a couple reasons. One, it would have been nice to meet some other parents because I really hadn't had a chance to say hello to anybody at that point, maybe one or two parents. And then I kind of wanted to hear, how everybody was doing and just be able to participate. So, but I had to go. And so it was in the Burlington Airport that I got to meet some more parents after we all got through security. There was a number of other people that were trying to catch the same couple of planes, and flights started getting delayed and canceled in Burlington up and down the eastern seaboard. And a lot of the parents I was talking to in the airport were not doing so great. And we're very open about it. They're like, "I'm not doing so good." And I thought, well, they're gonna be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, parents need a Rook week of their own, I think. So,
well, the social media stuff that you mentioned, that there's parents of class of whatever this is and stuff like that. That's been going on for a while. Very foreign to us old guys.
Yes,
and there's some pros and cons to that, I think.
Yes.
Right. I mean, I'm sure you got some rabid ones in there who are just a little off kilter, maybe saying goodbye to their kid. There was a group, this was probably 10 years ago. There's a group of like moms who wanted to go ambush the Dog River Run and join their kids, and like sort of kind of crazy stuff like that.
So that was my cadre year.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was a blast. And it was kind of the start of like the social media counterculture within Norwich.
Yeah.
So when my parents, the instructions that were given to my parents were like, do not come up for the Labor Day parade, do not come up for the dog run. They were adamant. They're like, he's going to call you for 10 minutes every Sunday, and you can see him at family weekend, and then after he's recognized, you'll hear from him more. And that was it. And the person, her name escapes me, but she was the parent rep on the parent and family department, and they were like, nope, your kid is gone in Vermont. Like, just forget about him. So
Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
your dad's like, okay, all
yeah,
right,
my
Bev,
dad
let's
was
go
fine.
home.
Yeah, yeah, that was a long drive back with the three sisters and the Suburban. Um, so yeah, so this group popped up my junior year, the Dog River Raiders,
Oh God, they had a
started by,
name.
oh, of course they did, and they were absolute assholes to deal with. They went above and beyond. They were like, my kid didn't call today. Granted, at the time there was no cell phone service, and half the time the barracks phones had like a fist put through it. Um, my kid didn't call home tonight. What's going on? And then another mother would chime in and be like, well, he's being hazed right now. He can't talk. They're abusing him. And this was nightmarish because they would call the commandant staff, and then the
Oh
commandant
jeez.
staff would come up and light the cadre up. They're like, you're not giving the kids phone calls. We're like, this kid has Boost Mobile. He's not getting
Mm.
cell phone reception up here. Um, so it was a real nightmare. I'm in the the same group as you, Chris. And I've seen a couple of the comments, and so far it's positive, but somber. But nobody's spouting off conspiracy theories about the Rooks getting their adrenochrome drained or anything.
So, well, so since you brought up cell coverage, I think Verizon had an outage,
They
and
did. I
Yeah,
was up there Tuesday and it was still out.
yeah, and so that actually became one of the that had the potential to be a conspiracy theory, log on the fire for sure. I was like, oh, geez. And then the Northfield, Vermont Facebook page had a number of discussion points on that, and they were telling it, hey, if you have Verizon, call and complain. The more complaints we get, the faster it'll get fixed. And I thought, I'm not sure if that's how that works. In terms of metrics, like, oh, the weighted effort goes towards the number of complaints we get. But it seemed, eventually Verizon was able to rectify that and to someone's satisfaction. But there was actually last night there was so there's a couple different Facebook pages that have cropped up, and you guys are probably far more aware of this. This is all relatively new to me. As I've explained before, Facebook was something I knew what it was, but I wasn't on it until classmates and the boy's mom, said, "Hey, you need to be on here." So there is a Facebook page of I think it's alumni who post things as if they were parents. And I just,
Oh, Jesus.
yeah, it is as it sounds. And so I just became aware of that like in the last, we'll just say 48 hours, I think.
I gotta see this.
Yeah, I actually,
send
so
it, yeah.
I got on it yesterday. So I actually wrote to the guys who started that, and I was like, is this you? And it's the same group of guys you would think it is. So I said, is this you? And they're like, yeah, you should get on here. I'm like, well, I actually have a Rook in this year's class. And they're like, well, you definitely need to get on here. And so, last night there was a concerned parent on the normal class grouping of current parents about an event. And initially I read it and I thought, I was very reluctant to respond. I don't post ever normally on other people's posts, but I decided that, let's see if we can maybe get to the bottom of this real fast. And so I took a screen capture and sent it to commandant staff, and they quickly rectified the situation. And so and then the parent updated everybody and said, everything's fine. So there's there are pros and cons to the environment we live in. And the reality is, I think we just need to embrace it. There's a lot of low hanging fruit. So some of the questions that parents have had, and I tried to roll back a little bit and see in preparation for his like packing list and preparation to go off, I was really, hands off. I let him navigate all that. And that had some interesting second and third order effects, including we had to do a bunch of last minute stuff and interact with the staff of the school at the last minute on a couple of items. But I can see now that, if the staff and faculty are fully embracing the environment we're in, the actual context of the environment we're in, there's a lot of low hanging fruit there for our community to receive and act on, from answering questions that people might have, engineering solutions in, and sort of finding ways in which maybe communication wasn't as thorough as we might have thought in preparation for, the reception and integration portion. So, and then the other thing I would say, logistically, there's a lot of positive things that are happening there, people connecting and figuring out carpooling and travel arrangements and that sort of thing, which, you remember back in our day, if you knew somebody that had a car, you had a ride. You jump on 89 South on the weekend and off you went. But if you didn't have a car, it was like planes, trains, and automobiles to try to get somewhere. And just getting a simple ride to Montpelier to catch a bus could be a big deal. So,
well, they posted some nice footage of Rev popping off the cannon for the first round. I think he's done that for, I don't know, 15 years, something like that, maybe longer. And they showed a clip of General Broadmeadow blowing it off, I think, the next day or something like that too, which is nice. Yep. Those are cool to see.
Yeah, and it's a lot of Hell's Bells and Welcome to the Jungle this week with any luck.
Well, thankfully, there's still a crop of young folk willing to do this, including your kid, Chris, William. So it was cool to see up there Tuesday, rookies marching around, ate in the mess hall. They do their thing upstairs in the Jack Hebert room. But I got to say, the food is so much better than I remember. I said to Rev, I don't think they know how well they're eating. And again, I'm just comparing it to the past, which I probably shouldn't do, but it's like they got a lot of choices in there.
Well, you guys had steak night.
Only if you had the little coupon ticket, and you could only get one. So people would deal in these. Hey, I'll trade you something for your steak ticket.
That was just tuna in prison.
Yeah, that was just Wednesdays.
No, the food's definitely better, but I will say that when the board goes up there, we do at least one meal in the chow hall, so that's 3 times a year. And the stomach, the gastrointestinal discomfort after that meal is, usually something that's reserved for the group chats.
Now, see, I was trying to talk it up, and you went and did that.
So I happen to I agree.
It's
I
good
think
once you get your immunity in.
I think the food, that might be the water. I think the food is good. It's obviously much better than when we were there. And, talking to last year's cadets and then a little bit on Sunday, I was like, hey, this food's good. And people were like, is it? And I said, yeah, it is. I mean, they have there's a lot of great food there. Very nutritious in terms of like fueling your body and doing recovery and hydration. They have a lot of bases covered. So, yeah.
And I know that the strength and conditioning coach, Scott Caulfield, he has an app that the school subscribes to it at his direction. But all the core kids get a meal plan and specified workouts. The athletes get something else. They get like the next tier up, but at the bare minimum, the cadets all get meal, dietary and nutritional help and a workout plan.
We had shepherd's pie, I swear, 3 times a week in a big steel, but it sounds like we're 100 years old, but in a big steel bowl Remember those? They'd slap that down on the table. It was the cheapest way to feed a whole bunch of people at the same time.
I mean, we ate
sounds like a
family
Charles
style.
Dickens. Yeah.
Yep, family style.
It was all family
that.
style. I miss family style too, well, I miss family style, but I gotta say those trays, those individual plastic trays that are there in the chow. That's probably the worst part of the eating in the chow hall experience for me. Is that I mean, I'm one-handed trying to like juggle that tray, and they kind of bow, you know what I mean? And they're like flexy, and so I always feel like I'm about to spill stuff because I have spilled stuff in there. So now I'm like two hands on the tray, and
I kind of thought the same thing Tuesday as I was going through. I was like, okay, I need to get a drink. What do I do with my tray? Oh, okay, I guess I set it here, like looking like the new guy. Looking like the new guy.
Yeah. I was totally but I've made I've spilled a few things. I've made a couple of big messes in there, and I hate that. So
it was an upperclassman privilege. So there's drink stations up in Rook Dining, but Rooks weren't allowed to use them. So, those first couple of weeks, you're that new Rook, and you've got, these super slippery boots or leather shoes, and you're trying to balance, a glass of water and a Gatorade or a Powerade up those stairs.
Yeah.
1 out of 10.
Yeah.
For no reason. For no reason either.
Just
for no good reason.
The duality of man.
Yeah.
But those trays are some of the best sleds come winter. So
yeah.
That's probably why half of them are broken.
Yeah.
We couldn't walk on the UP, and I'm sure they probably still can't. You can't kind of cross it. And I was always like, but it would be so much quicker. Why don't you just let everybody go?
It's just right there.
Go across. Yeah.
It's just right there.
One of the funniest memories I had from I think it was rookie year was there was some upperclassman corporal on this really tall like upperclassman, I don't know what rank, who was calling out the rookie traffic jams as they went along the UP to their 8 a.m. classes like it was a news helicopter.
Yeah. Good times. So when's the next trip up there for you, Chris, as a dad? Parents weekend?
For me, it'll be Alumni weekend is fast approaching.
Oh, that's right.
So we have Alumni weekend is like a month away, I think. And so I'll go up for that, and I'll get to see him. So, they're really talking about parents' weekend being the first time we can interact with them. But I think I remember alumni seeing their kid like at the football game, and I don't know how much other interaction. And then parents' weekend is 5-6 October. 4, 5, 6 October, and then the Colby Military Rider Symposium is 7, 8 October. So I'll stay in town for both those events. And there might be one more thing there might be another event that I'm not tracking that. So this coming weekend is they take the oath, and I thought about going up for that, and I thought about going up for the parade, but I want to respect the process and respect what the commandant's office and the cadre are trying to accomplish with them, and I don't want to interrupt his experience. So I'll probably, if I go up for any of that, I'll keep my distance.
If you're still listening to this, go ahead and label yourself a good parent right now. Also, be proud now. You don't have to wait for anything. You don't have to wait for the end of Rook Week. You don't have to wait for recognition until they have a ring on their finger or graduation. You can be proud of them right now. They're doing something that a lot of people aren't willing to do, and I promise you it will pay off exponentially over the years. Take it from a quote-unquote old guy. Your kid's going to change, but they don't like change. They've just become a better version of themselves. So rest easy. They're in good hands, and you will be connected to this Norwich family for the rest of your lives. Speaking of connection, if you liked this, I do this every week. have been for almost 5 years now. There's almost 260 episodes you can get access to. I maintain that this is the singular, most powerful networking tool in the Norwich family right now. I interview grads from the 50s all the way up to current students. You've earned your spot in the family. I'll help you get to know it. Grads like it. They're busy. They have their lives going on. If you do one thing and just listen to this podcast every single week, I promise you'll be more connected, more in the know what's going on up there than anybody else. That's it. That's my pitch. So kindly consider getting a subscription for you or for your Rook. I'm sure they'll dig into it. Yes, it's subscription only. Reason we do that is I like to keep it a semi-private conversation. This isn't for the whole world. This is just for us. Makes it a little bit more special, and there's some overhead that comes with it. So if you're interested, just go to secondmess.com. You can subscribe via PayPal or Venmo, which I'm sure if you're a parent these days, you probably have at least Venmo. In fact, while you're at it, send your Rook a couple of more bucks. It's tough being a Rook. It's tough being a cadet. It's even tougher if you're a broke Rook or a broke cadet. So send them a little something so they can go down to the snack bar when they get a chance or do something. It means a lot to them. We'd love to have you. Be sure to include your email address if you do decide to subscribe so we know who to set the account up for. Don't forget that part, please. I'd like to add, just as a quick note, in case you're curious, I do not work for the university. This is a completely independent enterprise like everything Norwich related I've ever done. I'm just a grad who got bit by the bug many years ago and can't seem to get over it. It's a huge part of my life. I've written 2 books about it. They're called Norwich Matters and Norwich Heroes. You can get them both off Amazon. If you just go to Amazon and put in my name, Randall H. Miller, it should pop up for you. If you have any feedback, feel free to send that as well. Best of luck to you and your Rook.
Thank you for listening to the Second Mess Podcast. We value your feedback. Feel free to email us your thoughts at secondmesspodcast@gmail.com. For complete information about the show and links to our social media channels, check out www.secondmess.com. Until next time, stay safe and stay connected.